Last week was the National Day of Prayer, and aside from the obvious First Amendment issues with a legislated day of prayer, it seems like an innocent enough event. What's wrong with asking people to pray for our country? The National Day of Prayer began in the 1950s under the guise of ecumenical unity. It was supposed to be a time for all people of all faiths and creeds to come together and pray for our country. But the representative who proposed the bill in Congress openly credited Billy Graham with giving him the idea, and Graham was not hiding behind ecumenicism. He told the truth about what this really was. He said, "Our nation was founded upon God, religion, and the church." Graham was not interested in ecumenical prayer, he only cared about Christian prayer. And since that day, the National Day of Prayer has been implicitly or explicitly all about Christian nationalism. In the past, organizers have used language to make it seem innocent, suggesting generic prayers that most people won't have a problem with, even though to insiders, it is obviously promoting a radical right-wing agenda. This year, the National Day of Prayer Task Force decided to stop pretending and to say the quiet part out loud. The symbol for this year's prayer is a sword and a shield. It is extremely militant and has an obvious message for anyone familiar with the history of the Crusades. They aren't praying for a better world. They're working up to the point where they can use violence to further their agenda. The goal is conquest. And anyone who's familiar with the insurrection on January 6th knows what we're in for if the Christian nationalists get their way. The language of one of the prayers they promoted was also very telling. It said, quote, "Lead us forward to dispel the darkness and bring light throughout the church, family, education, business, military, government, and the arts, entertainment, and media." Now, aside from the troubling racial implications of using darkness to imply badness, it reflects something that is known as Seven Mountains ideology. People who advocate this kind of Christian nationalism believe that there are 7 areas of influence, and proponents of it believe that they are supposed to take over each area of influence. Religion, family, education, business, government, arts, and the media. Their goal is to take over each institution one by one until they can impose a radical, right-wing Christian theocracy upon the United States. Now, everyone should be able to tell why this is un-American, but it's also opposed to the teachings of Jesus. Jesus told his followers to not be like hypocrites who put on shows and get lots of attention when they pray. When we pray, we're supposed to do it privately without seeking attention, because for Christians, the point of prayer is not to change God, it is to change us, to make us more like Jesus and to make the world a more just and Christ-like place. In fact, Jesus told us that we're supposed to pray for God's realm to come to earth just as it is in heaven. That isn't a call to spread our ideals through violence or legislation or to impose our worldview on other people whether they like it or not. We're supposed to go about the work of making Jesus' ideals of peace, justice, mercy, compassion, equality, a reality on earth as if we were in heaven. Christian nationalism is a clear threat to democracy in our country, but it is also completely opposed to the teachings of Jesus.